Recording. Let's all take a breath, or a few. So this is my third of these circles this week, my third and last of my circles. When I started it yesterday, I started with expressing fear and anger. And as the conversations went on, I got a more of a picture of a bigger picture. So I'm a little calmer. And what this means to be is expression of whatever's going on for you around what I've written around the situation. And we're going to do minute check-ins. We're not going to use the speaking circle protocol that some of you are aware of in Zoom circles where we call names. We're not going to have to do that. We can talk to the group like a regular Zoom meeting. And there's going to be although I keep looking into the camera because I'm so used to it. We're going to have 1 minute check-ins just to get here. And then probably 4 minute, maybe 5 minute expressions in the same order. 5 minutes to see what's coming through. And you'll start to see energy conversations starting somehow. It's always different. Yesterday went smoothly. This morning, Jack was there. It was rocky until we started hitting that lower emotional that place of breathing. So we're going to have minute turns and say 4 or 5 minute turns, and then a closing of 1 or 2 minutes. And then after the hour, there'll be debrief for anyone who wants to stick around and talk about the process, have more expression. That's in both circles. That was a big piece of it. Most people stayed, but no requirement to stay. So I'm going to ask, after we breathe, I'm going to ask Jack, because Jack was there this morning. We've talked about it. He's got an overview similar to mine, only he's much more articulate about it. So I'm going to leave that to him to do the first minute. But let's breathe a little more into the belly, into the stillness. So we want to come from relative stillness. Yeah, thank you for showing up. And this is a listening field to express into. So when I put my finger up in this first round, it means take about 15 seconds, more or less, to finish up. We'll all thank the person. Okay, we all ready to listen? Not ready to rumble, but ready to listen. Jack, starting with the breath, starting now. 1 minute, and we'll wait till John gets back. 1 minute with Jack, starting now.
Well, hi, everyone. This is actually different than this morning's we referred to, because that was a soup of people that I didn't know the politics, and I realized that conversations these days, I kind of want to know where I'm starting out, or I kind of, more than otherwise, edge in gradually. Like, God, I just, I'm interested in talking about politics. I'm more interested in connecting with human beings underneath the political surface, where I like to believe I do believe we have more things in common, but surface differences are all hyped up now for all sorts of obvious reasons. I assume you guys know. And what's the purpose of coming together? What's the purpose this evening? I'm not exactly sure. I'm looking forward to hearing everybody and seeing where it goes. And, I certainly have faith in someone sneezing in the background in the process here. I also prefer it live, but these days when I try to organize groups of people, because that's the way I like to do things, preferably outdoors, that's a harder boulder to push up the mountain these days. Yeah, for all sorts of reasons. So yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing more and then diving deeper. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Jack. Alex, may I call on you?
Sure. Can I just
Yeah, you have a question?
ask a quick question?
Yeah,
You said earlier, at least I thought I heard you say earlier, that the things you've been writing about. I haven't been reading a lot of your writing, so I don't know if I'm speaking to that or if I'm speaking.
yeah. Well, did you read the invitation that I sent, the
Yeah.
original article? That's enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, minute with Alex, starting with a breath.
Hi, I'm glad I'm here. I'm tired. Work is can be demanding at times, and I think my main thing for this is to I have I have been I've been pretty involved in, or to the best of my ability, involved in voting rights and trying to get that to work on that a little bit. And I'm also very interested in the racial issues, and I don't know what this will bring, but I do know that what I'm here for is to talk to other people or hear other people's perspectives on the overwhelm that I feel in the political arena right now, and where can I have an impact, and is it worth having an impact, and how can I breathe? So that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. John, starting with a breath, starting there.
Well, I just had the thought how much I want to have an impact, and yet I just in this moment realize that I don't. I just have such a sense that such enormous forces at play here. It's, just huge. And I think just how to understand what's going on. That's, I think, and then just do my little piece of supporting human connection and care and understanding between us. But this sense that I'm going to somehow, I don't know, be part of fixing all that's broken. I don't know. I just have a sense it's all just trying to work itself out in, infinite ways. And so fascinating and kind of terrifying at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Michaela, starting with a breath, starting now.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm glad to be here. I have been really concerned about what's happening in our country, in the world, and kind of in a real state of overwhelm and anxiety, like a combination of sadness, anxiety, overwhelm. And I was struck by your email, Lee, because I felt like, well, I keep wondering what I can do. And I think a starting point is talking with people and connecting, because I'm in my world, or I talk with my husband about my concerns. But I think it's really important to start from a place of talking with more folks and really understanding. I do feel very concerned for our world, and but I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to have a conversation. Talking and interacting with folks and connecting and listening always helps me learn and understand and figure out what I need to do. So thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, Michaela. Maurice, starting with a breath.
Great to be here. Great to be with you all. I'm conscious that we're at a hinge in history. I'm fascinated by hinges in history. Those multidimensional periods where flux and change and chaos and progress and hope and destiny all come crashing together. And I was keen to do this and participate when I got Lee's invitation to connect with nervous systems around the immobilization. A wise man said to me recently that voice was a primary tool to antidote to immobilization. And immobilization in nervous systems is not good. So lovely to be with you all and hear your voices and exercise mine.
Thank you, Maurice. Elisa, starting with a breath.
Well, thank you for having me here. And I did Lee's Circle years ago, 2013. So I always check out his emails, and then this one about democracy circles caught me for a multitude of reasons. But the one I'll mention at this point is my best friend lives in Santa Cruz, but she's from Missouri, and we're constantly having these conversations where she's like, Lisa, you like listen to a lot of NPR, and she's like, she's pointing out my bias in a way that I don't generally get. And from her, I'm able to hear it. And I notice I'm surprised, and then I get kind of defensive. And then after I think about it. And my last idea is I wanted her to come to my next family Thanksgiving, where the different people are all there, and just to see what her impact is there.
Thank you, Elisa. Yeah, just like this. Just like this. And another, let's do 5 minutes. And when I put my finger up, about 30 seconds more or less to finish up. In the same order, Jack. Again, let's all start with a breath together. Starting now, Jack.
I'm usually looking for more time, and now I feel like I want less because I'm not sure where this is going. So very different than the last group where there are different viewpoints as opposed to probably more on the same page here. And yeah, how about that, Lee? I'm at a loss for words. That's a rare thing. Yeah. In fact, is that okay for me to pass and come back around, or is that, I can always find somewhere to go, but I usually wait like, oh, I've got something I really want to
Okay.
say versus, is that
Well,
okay?
let's see. Yeah, let's do that.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Is that
Jack.
okay with folks? I hope.
Yeah,
It's not a shyness thing. Yeah,
I know it's not. That's why you're allowed to do it. Alex, you want 5 minutes?
Sure.
Starting with breaths. Starting now.
So what I remember about the democracy circles was this idea that, in the email is this idea that hopefully this would be a seed, and ultimately we would have conversation, throughout the country, throughout the world, which I think is an incredibly great idea. There's one group that I follow, and for a while I was contributing to financially, but I never got involved. in the weeds are in the sessions. They're called Braver Angels, and they have Democrats and Republicans talking to each other. And you know, it's interesting to me to be in a forum like that. I think I'm just at a place in my life where I'm getting that more diffused voice, you know, where I'm not as emphatic, or I have to have my opinion understood and absorbed and taken. It's one thing I'm a little, I feel a little sad about and heartbroken about is that my passion for this, for the elimination or the eradication of white supremacy, and for voter rights, and for reparation, and for ideas like that, are not shared in my home as much. And so that makes me feel a little awkward at times. You know, I don't feel like I've got this team with me, you know, like, here we go, team. I do have a few groups or organizations, Indivisible Marin and stuff, that I have been a little bit involved with. But I think for me, and certainly with my family of origin, there is the opinions are quite opposite from what, or perspective, I don't know about opinion, or desires, quite opposite from what mine are. So part of me wanting to come here is to be with people, and it's not even like we have to agree, but to have the respect to be heard, you know, I think, and to have other people with that curiosity that they want to also be heard. I think that would, for me, would just shrink that massive divide that's happening. You know, it would, that you know, you against me. You know, I think that, so when I talk about feeling overwhelmed, it's been baby steps for me over the past couple of years. It's just been baby steps. And I find that I can only pick a couple of, you know, maybe one or two areas, because there are a million areas, you know, because it is so broken. And there are just so many different pockets that I could be invested in. But I have financial obligations, I have work, I have things that I have to do, you know, so I can only really pick. And so I'm grateful I have picked a couple that are very important to me. And so I get involved where I can. But I shied away from the Braver Angels because I am intimidated, or I think my nervous system can't handle high intellect. This is the way it is, you know, being thrown at me. Oh, thank goodness there's only a minute left, because I don't really know what I'm doing, just to say that I just feel good sitting here with, you know, 6 other people who want to help in some way move toward amending, because amending is really what I would like to see or be a part of, as long as, you know, I've got another 30 years on the planet if I'm lucky, you know, so, or whatever, 40. So anyway, thank you all very much.
Thank you, Alex. John, starting with a breath, everybody. Breathe with John. Yeah.
Well, I led a circle of sorts before coming to this evening. And one of the topics that came up was about censorship. And you know, how to handle disinformation. And what's coming to me in this moment about that is that this need I take for granted and got expressed a lot about wanting to like be able to hear each other and hear all the different viewpoints about people's understanding of the research and the science and the alternatives and the all this myriad of viewpoints that people have, you know, whether it's COVID or it's other things. And I really love that and want that. And what do you do with what I believe is very intentional flooding the zone, is sort of called, like with intentional disinformation? Because it's one thing, like we you know, in good faith, we're just disagreeing strongly, and you know, yeah, then it's like, yeah, let's hear each other, let's listen, let's like hold each other's differences. But what if you're coming into that space, or not that but what if your agenda is like intentionally flooding the information space with, you know, conflicting, wrong, whatever information that's intentionally there to confuse people, to get people polarized and fighting each other and divided, and it seems like, so I guess that's a belief that to me seems quite true, that is going on. Not only that, I think in some ways genuine siloing of information. But so what to do with that in terms of this, like wanting to give everybody a voice and hear everybody, and yet if platforms like Spotify or Twitter or whatever are just letting anybody and everybody, or you know, say if Trump was on there, whoever, and just the amount of like information. So it's, and I was watching something, I don't know, maybe some of you saw this, Sam Harris invited some guests onto his to do this video kind of talk around the state of democracy. It was fascinating, kind of terrifying. Two people that wrote these articles for the Atlantic around like the coup is already started, you know, on January 6th. So the actual authors of these pieces and some other folks. But God, well, I don't even know where I'm going with all this. I feel like I need some kind of summation here. I think, yeah, I still want to believe in, yeah, hearing people like that. I think that's the only way, because it's gotten to where it's too hard to pull apart all. It's like a spaghetti or like a ball of yarn that's just like, it's so hopelessly tangled up of what's the truth. And so I'm kind of coming to my own answer to my question in a way of that. If we can, yeah. So in terms of whether a platform has information on it or not, I don't know, but I do think it's important to try to hear everybody, even if they're believing something I think is completely like propaganda, and you know, like it doesn't matter really. Can we hear each other? You know, can we hear each other? And can we connect on what we share, what we all need, what we all want, and to like care about each other and love each other, want to work together, want to like just to not give up on that, even though we believe like all this propaganda is swirling everywhere. Just still like be open to understanding. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Michaela, let's all breathe. Starting now.
Yeah, I'm not sure where to start. And I have this sense that, well, that I'll find the thread. I'm not sure where the thread is for me, but I was drawn to this circle because I am really concerned about democracy and feeling that it's slipping away in our country. And also what has been really, I think, eye-opening to me is that I've always thought we all shared that, like love for democracy. And now I'm not sure. I feel that I don't know if everybody wants that for our country and for the world. As I look at the trends that are occurring around the world, not just here in the United States. So that's been really eye-opening to me. And I think it's why it's so important to talk, because I've made this assumption that we're all on the same page on things. And maybe if we talked more, we would be, because perhaps we all, and all people want the basic same things, but are being, because I do think there is a lot of misinformation out there. We're kind of being pulled apart without really stopping to think or have the conversations and understand that maybe we do share more than we think. But it has been really concerning to me because I feel that in the past, I've always had more optimism. And now I just sometimes question whether I'm just being naive. One thing that really struck me recently was the movie. I don't watch a lot of movies. I prefer to read books and do other stuff, but I watched this movie called Don't Look Up, which to me is really, I mean, it's about what's going on with our environment and climate change in certain ways, but I think it's just about sort of heading towards a catastrophe and thinking that somehow the people who are trying to warn everybody about this catastrophe were just thinking, of course, everybody will come together. Of course, everybody will rally. And I feel like that's what I've always felt, that if there were something major that was going to cause major destruction to our earth, which I do think that the loss of democracy will have major, if it happens, negative consequences for our country and for the world. But I always thought people would rally, and I don't want to give away the end. And maybe they did in this movie, but I don't know. I feel like I don't know if people will now, because there's so much separation, so much kind of tribalism in a sense. And so I'm really concerned. And a good place to start is to talk, though. One thing else that I have noticed, I feel like I'm really pretty open-minded. I do want to hear other points of view. I do want to understand where people are coming from. I like to put myself in their shoes and understand. And it's interesting because I am in public health, and I do hear a lot of the different opinions. I feel like COVID's been used, the misinformation around it, to divide people for other purposes. Like it's like bigger as far as causing divisions and political divisions. But I always I'll tell my colleagues in public health, and I realize how even when one thinks they're on the quote unquote right side, how narrow-minded people can be, because I'm just like, well, let's try to understand why people don't want to get vaccinated. Like it could be scary. There could be, somebody they know had a bad consequence. Like, let's try to understand. And then maybe we can come together and help people, just understand, I guess. It's not about making people do something, but kind of understanding and thinking about how we can all do things to protect and help each other. And so I don't know if I'm making sense, but it's good to talk, and I appreciate your listening. And I do want to have faith that we will still have a democracy.
Thank you, Michaela. I think Jack is ready to pop. Jack, starting now. Let's all breathe.
Sorry, I'm working on it. Here we are. Would you give me a 2-minute signal instead of a 1 minute for my 4?
Yeah.
We're doing 4 or 5?
5.
5. 2.5 minutes then, just halfway through. So I just, I can do more with the longer time. So I love this yin energy. I really do. And I need it. And I'll go back to it on the other half of this, perhaps, unless I don't. But there's also a lot of yang in me these days. And I want to vent a little bit of that. So bear with me here, which is, I loved the movie Don't Look Up. I fucking loved it. My girlfriend jumped up at the same time I did. We only looked at each other when Leo DiCaprio does his screaming, like, what the fuck happened to us? Like, I'm not doing enough of that. I'm not doing enough expressing of tears and crying, which I can do with, her dog. He lets me do that. That's fine. But also the like, what the fuck? And, then I intellectualize to try to understand it and get a grip on it, because I really can't. It's too big. I was a kid. I was born in 1960 and 68. I was in New York City and I watched, the race riots. My mom finally pulled the family out of the city to get away from, what was going on in the streets. But I feel like that's this time again. And, I'm in Marin and, it's the big picture and it's all beautiful. It's God's way. And Trump is the Antichrist and he brings forward the Christ and, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But fuck, I feel like, okay, Jack, now I finally understand how Hitler rose to power. I see how you just chip away, all the stuff that's being written now in the Atlantic and the New York Times and all the rest of the liberal media that I read and love. But, how do you reasonably understand and connect with and hear the feelings of a Nazi guard with a gun who's stabbing you with the bayonet and he'll shoot you if you don't move? Like at a certain point, like I'm inspired these days actually by Thich Nhat Hanh, who just died, of course, or as we say here, passed. He didn't die. Let's avoid that truth. He just passed on. He's on the other side of the golden rainbow with the unicorns now. It's a huge loss. And of course, he's 95. We had him, but I had the pleasure of hearing him speak in Berkeley right after 9/11. Thank you, Lee. And coincidentally, I had just an emotional breakdown. This is 20 years ago, and it was all the liberals like us, angry, like, what do we do about George W. Bush? We were smart enough, me, to not hate, the Muslims, the towel heads who are out to kill us. Like, no, that's just the Dick Cheney thing. And Thich Nhat Hanh, when it's, what do we do? What do we do about Bush? He's going to bring us into war. And of course, Thich Nhat Hanh, what was his answer? With the little guy on the stage with a cadre of monks speaking to 500 worked up people at Zellerbecker Hall, or the name of it. And it was, of course, compassion. And, that worked in that room. And now at this time, I'm like, well, yeah, but what about when, Lee showed me a video today, people having a melee, like out of a Hollywood movie in a steakhouse, because everyone's tensions were high, whatever it caused it. It was the spark. And then, the gasoline that is us these days just ignited. And, that is out there in greater ways than it used to be. And I do know that for me, it's to come back to being grounded, whatever that is for me. For me, that's nature, outdoors, in the sunshine, in my body, not in here. But I want to use this, stay grounded. And then I'm an environmental activist by profession, and I love it. I'm making less money than I ever had in my life, and I love what I do. It's the opposite of what I used to be in advertising, where I was paid well to do work that was killing me inside in my 20s. So I look for, I guess, something that I really believe in, like in this chaos. Well, I know that we shouldn't let the Park Service shoot wild elk at Point Reyes Seashore to death. That seems really wrong and concrete, and I don't have to attack a Republican to go there. And I can talk to anybody about that issue. And if they're not working directly for the cattle industry, which is responsible for what I just described, within 5 minutes, they'll see my point of view. And of course, 10 minutes of listening to their point of view and hearing them and all that stuff, as we all know from our NVC work. But I am called to action in a strange way at this time, rather than complacency of, oh, it'll be fine, because corporations have taken over. The media is making money, stirring up craziness, whether it's Rachel Maddow on one side or Tucker Carlson on the other. It's to get us all, because that sells. Ralph Nader was right 40 years ago. And then there are those like the Jim Jordans and the Donald Trumps who are just using it with the more division, the better, because we can leverage that to get money. And, so what if the planet goes to hell as we do in the next 20 years? I'll get some power and, that's all I know. So I understand that, but I don't know how to communicate with that. So, there's some vomit. We can chew over some chunks if you like or not, but that's where I am. And I'm just trying to throw something out here to work with. So whether it's I engage with a group of people who agree with me and want to, okay, how do we engage? I'm fascinated with Better Angels. Never heard of it. Wow, that's really interesting to do it in a safe format with the opposition, the other's point of view, because underneath it we have more in common, of course, to be heard. But you have to agree to those rules, and a lot of people won't even get there because they're so jacked. So thanks for listening, folks. We'll see where that takes us or not.
Thank you, Jack. Oh, let's breathe with Maurice.
Jack, I dig your fire. Bless you, man. Yeah, who would have thought in the third decade of the 21st century that we would be listening to the drumbeat, the goddamn drumbeat of autocracy around planet Earth? Who would have thought that 30 years ago? As we're facing the most precipitous crisis our planet has faced, right? And I care about the humans, folks, but I also care about all the other critters. I just want to put that right out there, right? I love y'all, all 8 billion of you. And I care also about the big cats and the rhinoceroses and the bears and the coyotes and all the little critters, the little newts and salamanders that are going extinct at a rate that's unprecedented. And we are inured to that. We are inured to the fact that the planet is fucking dying. The oceans are dying. The Congo's dying. The Amazon's dying. The permafrost in Russia is melting. Russia's getting 2.5 degrees hotter, 2.5 times hotter than any other part of the world because of the permafrost melting. Just learned that. The planet is dying and we are inured to it. Two of my heroes of the 20th century, R.D. Laing and Thomas Saz, said that mentally ill people weren't mentally ill. It was the culture that was mentally ill. And the mentally ill people were just having a healthy response to a bunch of real sickness, cultural sickness. Now, they were wrong. Mental illness is different and genetic and complicated, but who knows? Maybe mentally ill people are the people that can't filter it all out. Maybe that does have something to do with the genetics of what happens to them. And so they go crazy because we're all a nerd. We can go sleep every night, that I can go to sleep. Me can get in my bed and have a beautiful night's sleep with all of this going on. Now, autocracy is a bummer, and a loss of our democracy is a drag. But I also think America is a big fucking prick of a country. I'm sorry, guys. I'm really sorry. Slavery, the Native Americans. I know too much of 20th century American political history to not think that America and all of us are getting a kind of karmic just desserts. Because go talk to people in Iran or Guatemala or the Honduras or Chile with their beautiful democratically elected Allende that we deposed. America is a awful country, like a mafia don that exports violence and creates peace at home for the folks that are rich enough and white enough. And anyway, so there's no love lost with America. Look, I love all of our democracy. I love the fact that I can talk this way with all of you, but the idea of America and what we've done to the world. Anyway, so the den of autocracy, at the same time, our planet's dying. I mean, we're never going to fucking figure out shit. Excuse me. Because I'm half Armenian, right? And I know there's some Jews in this room. And I know. So I read a Ukrainian woman today talk about, hey, I'm not afraid. Fear is when you don't know what's going to happen. And I've been fighting this occupation. She's in the occupation. She's in the fight. You know, people are rebelling and have been rebelling for 8 years. It's not like this is a new thing in the Ukraine. She said, I'm not afraid. Fear is when you don't know what's going to happen. She said, I know exactly what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen, you guys. I have dreams every other night of some caravanserai where my people are trotting in some pogrom somewhere and I'm trying to survive. I know what's going to happen. I don't think she's right. I'm still terrified, but I do know what's going to happen. And I understand that nervous systems don't do well when there's uncertainty. So maybe I'm in better shape because I have no illusions about what's going to happen. No illusions. And I'm not saying it's going to get violent overnight or anything like that. I'm saying the sickness in this country it's a polarity that is not going to just get better when we, groove on each other and listen to each other. That ain't happening. That ship has sailed. That train's left the station. That is so fucking not happening. I love y'all, but that's not happening. We are headed for really, really rough times. We just are as a planet and as a country. And I'm going to other places and I'm looking around. I'm going to Spain. I know Spain's close to, North Africa. And in the next 20 years, there's going to be 150 million climate refugees from Africa and they're going north. So Spain doesn't sound like a very cool place to go, right? I mean, I've been thinking about that. Our friends, we all gather, we try to figure it out because I don't think it's good. And I don't think it's my exaggerated nervous system because of my genocidal past. I think that my genocidal past has put my finger on the pulse of things more carefully. And I understand that pendulums swing in history, right? Pendulums swing, and you have to sometimes move a polarity to one extreme and let it burst before it moves to the other direction. And this thing isn't going anywhere. This love of autocrats, it's a love of autocrats, right? There's something aspirational about Trump and Erdogan and Viktor Orban and Bolsonaro and Duterte. They are aspirational figures for hundreds of millions of people on Earth. They are aspirational. I mean, that's fact. They keep getting elected, right? There are elections in all those countries I just mentioned. Their people love them. They have a plurality of support in each of their countries. It's not like Putin. He's a gross dictator. Those guys are dictators too. But so, great to be with y'all. I hope I'm not too much. I always hope I'm not too much, and I know I am too much. So, thank you for listening, guys.
Thank you, Maurice. You're just enough. Elisa, let's breathe with you. Yes.
Wow. Thank you, Maurice. I will follow that up. It's so big. I have so much to say, although I'm usually more of the quiet one. So I will start by just saying that I daily am considering leaving the country. My first country of choice is New Zealand because I have an aunt there with her husband. I'm the single parent of a 4-year-old girl. And this shock of the lack of support in this country as a new mom was a lot. And I watched for the second time this past week the Wild Wild Country on Netflix about, Osho Rajneesh, which you should all watch. And I would go out on a limb here and say that I could watch that with my conservative uncle and we could both say, we could agree, we don't want that to happen. I had a stepdad living on that ranch. I had my grandmother going to that ranch. I know the people in that film, and I could still say, like, that was not okay. And I value the rules that America has that's to keep that from happening. And it was a complete pleasure to watch whoever they were, the DA and dude of justice and whatever, you know, put our laws into place and stop the abuse that was going on there. And I mean, I say that about, you know, I have a couple of conservative uncles who are the younger ones who turned out conservative because my grandparents saw how their first two sons were turning out by being in public school, which is very interesting. So the older ones are the liberal ones. The younger ones are the conservative ones. And so I think of them and I'm like, I think they could, you know, our democracy is we can agree on these rules, right? We can agree that you shouldn't poison people. We can agree on some things. I really, I mean, at the bottom of it, I can agree with that. And then I ask myself about our system now. Is it broken or does it just need better people in it? Or does the system itself warp people into being corrupt? Because there's certainly so much corruption in career politicians and people who are doing things to get reelected and they're not doing what's best for the country. So I would say maybe one of the things that would be good is some campaign reform laws so that people who can run, who, you know, want to get something done and then they can leave, you know, come in and sign some gun control laws so that I don't have to worry about my kid being shot, or so I don't have to worry about my kid doing gun drills when she's 4. Like, it's a bit much. I have a neighbor who's from Germany and he often goes to Germany and then he comes back and I get to hear the compare and contrast. And he just says there's like a level of desperation here in America that does not exist in Germany. He rides through a park at 10 at night and there's Africans smoking pot in the park. And at first he's scared and then he's like, wait, they have healthcare. They're not desperate. Like there's just this safety net that we do not have here. And I feel it in the traffic that we have. I feel it in this anxiety over survival and money. And it's pathetic that we are or were or are supposedly this beacon of whatever, of freedom and affluence for, you know, the white and privileged, but still, and that this is happening. It doesn't need to be that way. But I've gotten to the point where it feels like communication with the people on the other side, it's just like not possible because we don't agree on just a certain set of facts. And so I'm feeling a little helpless about that. And I was in Denmark. I'll finish on this. I was in Denmark and I was in a cab in a moving van with a Dane, the mover. And I said, what do you think about America? Because I really am not that fond of it. And he said, basically, he was like, well, I like having you guys there. You protect us. And I was like, wow, I hadn't thought of that. You know, so there is something to the military and it's just a clusterfuck. It's confusing. I don't have it all figured out, but I'm super curious. And I don't know if I can stick it out here. Maybe I can just leave for a while, let everyone do their thing, and then maybe come back later, honestly. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Elisa. Oh my, I'd like to do 2-minute closing turns. I know then we could stick around for more debrief, but if you have till 8 minutes after the hour, if anybody, did anybody have to leave? Can anybody have till 8 minutes at least after the hour? Good. So 2 minutes, I'll put my finger up at 1.5 and let's see, Alex, starting with breaths. We'll call this completion. What are you taking away with you?
Great to hear the passion. I know for me, I do not have terrific retention. So I'll read the articles and I will watch certain shows, and I don't remember it all. And I don't know if it's because of trauma from my childhood or what, but I can't regurgitate that stuff, so I feel intimidated in conversations at times. I am grateful for the overwhelm that everybody else has expressed, because that gives me hope. In all honesty, that gives me a little bit of hope. And I also am walking away feeling like, I have picked a couple of things that are big priorities for me. Or they're all big priorities, don't get me wrong. But the ones that I've decided to put my energy toward while I'm also working for an employer and not doing it on their time, being integrous with my values and my work. I feel like I would like to talk to you guys all again. And I'd like to see and to share again. Thanks.
Thank you, Alex. Completing with John after a full breath.
Mm. Mm. Well, something kind of crystallized just listening to you all. It was already, the seed of it was there at the beginning, but it just like that, what I was saying about, wanting to just, hear people and wherever they're at. But I think, I don't know, I feel like I have little confidence. Well, maybe I'll say it this way. I think so many people in the world are not interested in that. Seems to me the way to go, but I think there are a lot of people still that just, no, maybe that like one of you were saying, just, would rather have a strong man dictator, so there's something about like what, and the sense that like I'm going to do something that's going to change the course of it all. I don't think so. I think it's just like it's been said, it's like this tsunami that is just got so much energy behind it. And and okay, I'll sort of end with like I've been writing about this in a couple of blog pieces, and like, okay, if it's happening, there's something about like the totality of it all is creating this, and we're all part of that totality, and it's doing its thing, it's doing what it's doing, and I keep thinking it should be different because it looks horrific, like Maurice, you were saying, it just looks really horrific what's coming, and yet it is what it is, and we're all part of this totality that's creating this, and so what can I do? I can love what it, Byron Katie's thing, somehow find a way to love in spite of it all, and not feel like I have to be like somehow resisting what is, but still contribute to something good. So that's kind of where I am. I feel a lot more like seeing a little more realistically, just listening to all of you, So thank you.
Thank you, John. Michaela, we're starting with a breath.
Well, thank you. Yeah, things definitely crystallized for me by listening to all of you. It's super helpful. I definitely feel like we're on this collision course. My optimism that I typically would fall back on has been stripped away. The film that I mentioned, Don't Look Up, I really came to feel like that's where we're headed. And in the past, I would have been like, oh no, people come together. But A couple things that I think are really important. They're very important to me. So I do a lot of work in racial justice and social justice, and I do feel like we are being pulled apart. And I do appreciate the point about our country has never been a democracy. It has been an ideal of a democracy. And who is pulling our country together? Who is holding us together right now? It's Black and brown people who believe in that belief of democracy and everybody having equal rights that has never been true for non-white people. So I feel like we should be about voting rights if we want to keep our democracy, because the people holding us to task are really people who have never really experienced a democracy. Not that we all have at all in this country. There are a lot of flaws with it, but I appreciate people who are holding us to the vision of democracy. And that is super important to me. And who's going to be hurt the most by environmental destruction? It's the folks who can't leave, who don't have any place to go. And so I will be here fighting with everybody who doesn't have the ability to leave, because that's what will make me happy is helping folks and not, what's the point? What's the point of leaving and going to that other planet? Like, that wasn't such a great idea. You know, staying and being together and going down, if it happens that way with the folks you love and being good people, I think that's the fate that I see for myself, and fighting for what's right. Thank you.
Thank you, Michaela. Completing with Jack, starting with a breath.
Well, I'm happy to stay on here and converse. If people say things like, "Oh, I'd like to just talk a little bit with the group on that point or something," but in the meantime, I'm going to continue vomiting. So I think the systems in place, which we create out of greed and fear and ignorance, all the usual stuff at the root of it, perpetuate the problem. So I buy from Amazon because it's cheap and convenient. And so I fund, Bezos, the space clown's metal penises thrust into space, which pollute and accomplish nothing. There was a brilliant Bill Maher send-up of, pardon my vulgarity, I just enjoy it too much. It was an animated piece, 3.5 minutes, called Fuck Mars. And it was making fun of then Elon Musk, who was, well, they're all pushing, that's the thing you do. You get a ton of money, you're a white man, privileged. You leave the planet that you've just fucked. I mean, I just don't see it's going to turn at this point. I write my little things about raising awareness about, well, as consumers, we have a lot of power in this capitalist, not democratic society, but capitalist first society. Or we have buying power. We do. It's apolitical in that sense. And then there was a great Times video today produced, and God bless Cory Booker, one of my heroes. I mean, there are individual people out there, even in government, that I just admire. And, they use the word food and agriculture, not stop eating animals, people, because that's contributing to climate change, and we can change that tomorrow. And I only recently learned that, into my 50s, was I eating meat and not knowing any better because I didn't know. I drive a gasoline burning car because I can't afford the Tesla. Thank you, Elon. That's in my neighborhood here in wealthy San Rafael. I just don't see a way out. I do not see a way out. And I, again, try to get centered every day. And I mean, I every day, it's like this now for me. So every day I have tears of joy without exception. I'm like an old man, like an old mafia don sitting in a tomato patch, watching the little grandchild play, which is probably, it's a Godfather movie scene. And I saw a squirrel on a run yesterday, at the end of my run, stretching on a tree. And I look up at the squirrel, and he's fine. He's not worried. He's just a squirrel. And he's so beautiful with a big fluffy tail. And oh my God, I love him. And in that moment, I am with him. I am in joy. And then the 24 hours later, I'm having a Zoom talking about the end of, civilization as we know it. I wish we could just, as I say, I wish it was a meteor coming. I wish it would just exterminate my beloved fellow humans. There was Carlin made a phrase of it. Actually, I won't do him justice with the phrase, but the thought stuck with me from 20 years ago when he was in his angry rant phase. Brilliant and funny, but it was like, I hate humanity, which I do, because we're the supposedly most intelligent species on the planet, but we're the only one that have destroyed it for all creatures. And yet, of course, I can, get to know each of you people and really enjoy your company and get to know you and love you in a human way. Did you put a finger up, Lee? I have you down below, so I can't see. I'm probably into my 12th minute of my 2 minutes. So I'll leave it. I'll leave it right there. Cut. Comment hit. Jack done. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jack. Maurice, after a breath.
After a
Take,
breath.
take
Thanks.
that breath, Maurice.
Thanks, buddy. So 3 things inspired by you all in part. And the first is that agency, nervous system agency is having the power to affect some change within some realm. And that is just so important for all of us, to have some place where we can actually make something a little better, serve in some way. And I know in my work, there's opportunity to do that. And it keeps me out of the collapse, freeze, paralysis. Those nervous system states that lead to immobilization are just, they're deadly. I mean, deadly. We can't be in whatever kind of executive function we need to respond to what's going on if we're collapsed. So number 1, that. Number 2, I thought of it and I just love it. And I hope it's okay to say, Michaela, I loved what you said about hanging and just hanging with everybody. And I just thought of Mahayana Buddhism, and I just got a chill when I thought of it. Mahayana Buddhism is very different than Theravada Buddhism, right? So in Theravada Buddhism, you can get enlightened and ascend and transcend and do all that. In Mahayana Buddhism, the boat don't sail until everybody's on it. The boat do not sail until we're all aboard. So people become aware, enlightened here. They become what's called bodhisattvas, and they hang out to help everybody get on the goddamn boat. Right. So the third thing, guys, for me, the thing that keeps me a tiny bit sane is the non-dual. So hanging with the non-dual, right? Whatever way we all have to do that, because this is the duality. This is the polarity on steroids, right? It's the Maya, it's a samsara, it's insane. And so nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Therein lies the peace of God. And those 3 sentences soothe me hugely, right? That's the essence of the Course in Miracles. There's lots of philosophies, spiritual ones, that point to the non-dual, but just to be able to hang with the non-dual, the place where we're unified, the place where it's really all illusion, as the Buddhists say, right? So anyway, this is awesome to hang with y'all, and I'd like to do it again.
Thank you, Maurice. Alyssa, starting with a big breath together.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure to listen to you all, and I can't say anything has exactly crystallized for me. But one question that comes to me is like, what is worth doing, what really matters. And I care about people, and I'm interested in what drives people and what fears, have perverted people. And so I think it's worthwhile to inquire within and learn my own patterns and learn that, oh, I feel insecure and so I'm eating, or I want to shop, and just seeing how the implications of that worldwide, that is worth doing. I'm interested in that. I like hearing what you guys say about agency. I just watched I Am Not Your Negro. I've just started touching and getting more awareness about, African Americans here in the United States. And it's, yeah. But anyway, I'm grateful for these talks. I would be very curious to see what it would be like to have some more variety here. Because I am in the Marin bubble, and I'm mostly just talking to the choir. And then when I speak to anyone outside of the choir, I'm like, wow, I don't know if we can even talk, I don't like that feeling at all. because I do deep down feel like we're all human and we have these deep human sameness. So, thank you.
Thank you, Elisa. I'm going to take a couple minutes. In my life, I'm new to emotion. I haven't lived a life of coherent emotion, and at my age, I'm coming into it. So what I'm moved by, I mean, I believe that anything that's going to work has to start with expressing all the emotion before any action or spirituality can take hold. So I noticed that when Maurice is emotionally talking about there's no way out and we're all going to die, I am soothed because I'm hearing pure passion. So that's what I want to hear, and I want to be able to speak from that place. Take no prisoners. I'm getting a taste for that. So I'm getting ideas of where we might go and where I might suggest this goes, because this was beyond what I could have imagined, and this is what I want. What we did today. Thank you all for just being who you are and hanging in there. And I think it's fine we're on the similar page. That's where it starts. People on the similar page, and then when we get something together, we invite the others in to join some semblance of this kind of thing. So I'm maybe on the other side of this when we debrief, we can talk more about, what can we do, or how can we move this kind of listening field? What would be useful for us and for others to invite into? So I'd like us to end with a group hug, and then stick around if you want to debrief, talk about what the hell this is all about. Thank you.
Better than Netflix.
This is a Netflix special. See, if we could do this so that it's as good and it's close to a Netflix special, good impact we could have. Anyway, good. Nobody's leaving yet. Feel free to go, not to stick around as long as some of us do. So what comments? Who wants to say something about the meta aspect of what this could be or what we're doing?
I'll be right back.
I find value in community. I do. I need it these days because it's a mess out there. There's a lot of conflict out there. So I want my safe Marin bubble so I can get grounded, and then I can do my work in the world as activism. I need that personally. It's not a judgment that anybody else should or shouldn't. And yeah, and also Marin is terribly white and gentrified and all the rest. But I need the safety. I visit some friends in Oakland, and there was gunshots outside. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And who knows what that was? I don't want it. I'm already on edge.
So interesting that, Michaela, you want to?
I was just going to say, I work in Oakland. I live in the East Bay. I maybe am the only non-Marin person here. I didn't know that. So, yeah, Oakland's okay. I love Oakland. So anyways, sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, it's taken me, it's actually taken me a number of years to be okay with living in Marin, because I grew up in a very white privileged environment on the East Coast. And then I lived in San Francisco for 25 years, and then I found myself here, and I'm like, what the fuck? It's like, I just can't. But it also, I think I agree with the earlier statement that there's a sense of safety there, right? Because it's familiar. And, and so, from the meta perspective, and I'm taking that to mean like the big picture. What would be the big reach on something like this would be holding the space you know, for anybody to, because it's kind of easy to hold the space again in this environment with people of our um, uh, degree or whatever you want to call it, because we choose to come to this circle, and we all bring our intelligence and our whatever to this circle. But to have it open up to, I love the statement of, it's the Black and brown people that are fighting for the democracy and holding it. In my opinion, it's been the Black and brown people and their faith for centuries, and certainly as long as America has been around, that have kept a sense of love, you know, sort of moving. And it has not been my family or my generation. Yeah, I think it's learning to hold the space. And I agree with Elisa that it would be amazing what it would be like if we had, you know, some Republicans. I was at a couple of years ago, I think we were returning something to Kohl's, you know, and this one person was talking about how much they like Trump. And the guy at the counter said, "Wow, I can't believe you're saying that, Marin." And I thought it was like, wow, you know, it was interesting. So I would love to be able to be with my group who can still give this idea of love and accept all of the different opinions. I mean, not accept, but hear them. Anyway, I hope that helps.
There's two people who want to come to democracy circles, and they're Republicans. And I've been afraid about getting them in. But if we can actually gather around that, and some of you come on a day or night that they can be there, we could have one of these with these folks.
Well, I have lots of Republican clients, not so much friends, but clients. And they're as dismayed by everything that's going on as we are. And it's been a really interesting thing. I mean, they're Reagan Republicans, right? So, I mean, they're Cheney Republicans. So, I mean, come on, the agenda is anathema to all of us, right? I mean, it's still all the awful stuff that's been the political agenda for the last, 50 years, 100, whatever it is. And yet they are really, really incensed by everything, and they're righteous and they're great. And I love them, right? It's that whole thing about wealthy people, become Republicans. And it's just true. I have some wealthy clients, and that's their deal. And they hate what's going on. So, I mean, that's an interesting thing. And you guys, I want to say something. And this might be a marker for me with all of this, with all of you, is that I really don't want to be in a space where I'm countenancing in someone else the hate. Like, I'm not into that. I'm 61 years old. I have too little time left on this earth to want to be around people that are justifying hate in any way. And I do believe being involved with Donald, still believing in Donald after everything, is countenancing hate. And I'm just going to say it, just going to speak it out. And I'm not into that. I'm just like, no, I don't want to be around that. Not into it. I don't want to hear the rationalizations and it's good for this, or it's okay because of that, or not into it. Trump is an aspirational figure for people. Remember that. And that, in other words, he inspires them. Now that is a bummer. And I know a lot of I know what's going on with a lot of those folks. You're not going to get anywhere. It's not going to be fun. It's going to be a bummer. I mean, you can sit in a room with them. You can have the digestive system, because they do, but hate is hate. And when you get to the place in your life where you're countenancing hate, you're defended in a way. There's a defensive matrix operational in your psychological existence that's not going to make any kind of I-thou relationship possible. I just want to state that categorically.
Mm-hmm. So when we talk about, go ahead.
Well, I think I hear what you're saying in a very extreme sense. I also think that there's a lot of fear underneath a lot of that anger. And so there are those that are angry and evil, for lack of any other word, or just like, bad eggs, right? And then I think that there are those who are afraid and therefore maybe align in with a different thought or a thought out of fear. So I think that I too don't want to be sitting around with just blatant hatred, or I don't want to be sitting around with Nazis, or I don't want to be sitting around with the Ku Klux Klan. I don't want to be sitting around with those people, you know. But I do think that there are some Republicans who are, you know, who and you know, I don't know the Republicans you're talking about that your clients are, but I'm sure they're out there, plenty of them out there. You know, I mean, but you know, my brother, for example, is a lunatic. You know, but I think that a lot of it's fear, and I don't know. I mean, I think that's a hope. You know, I'm not ready to give up on all hope. I'm not there yet. So.
Well, Alex, there's a lot of reasons why people collude.
Mm.
You know, collusion's a really fascinating thing, complicity. And so psychologically, there's tons of reasons why they do it. You know, all the people that operationalized the genocides of history, you know, they all had a different psychological reason they did it. So, I mean, in a way, like, so what? The action is still the action, right? There's a reason they did it. And they're not all psychopaths, that's for sure. They're not all sociopaths, absolutely. Which is a really vexing problem for humanity. It would be easy if they were all psychopaths, people of the lie, people without a conscience. Anyway, excuse me, Jackie. I know you had something. Sorry, buddy.
No, not at all. Thanks for spewing some vomit that I can go chew on, which I want to, because
We relish each other's vomit.
I want all the big pieces. So I understand Trumpers in theory. I mean, I've got a few friends that are, yeah, I mean, actually, let me use one example. Philip Christie. We've known each other since 3rd grade. I love Phil. It's been increasingly difficult. We had a conversation about 6 months ago or so. I just wanted to reach out and see where we disagree. And he's smart. He turned me on to socialism with Kenneth Dolbear textbook from UMass. Anyway, he's got 5 kids. He's Catholic. He went through his crisis in life. I found, you know, Eastern religions and all of you lovely Marin people, my family. He found Jesus, of course. You know, that's what he does. The Christians, the Catholic in his case. And I said, look, Phil, can we at least agree that Donald Trump, I mean, you might like his politics and the Reagan era and where he's going and what he's doing, but at least acknowledge that he's a pathological liar. I mean, he's just not a smart guy. He works from his gut, and he's damaged as a kid by an abusive and alcoholic father and a brother, not alcoholic father, alcoholic brother who killed himself, you know, all that stuff. He's a person, strong personality, but a person. And there's a reason for what he does. And I can talk about, I find him fascinating when I don't get too upset about it. And I said, Phil, can we at least agree on that? And he said, absolutely not. And that's where, yeah, exactly. And it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, that's hard.
But I mean, I was talking to my friend Philip, though. I mean, he's a dear, and he's smart, and he's funny. He likes to debate. And at a certain point, like, I don't really want to just masturbate here and argue. Like, can we find some common ground? And it was really tough. But Phil would never take up arms against me, nor I against him. We have too much. I mean, he's not a violent guy. He's middle class, lives in Connecticut. Alex, I wanted to ask you if you're from Greenwich, the way you spoke, or, you know, where you were. You're alluding to something. Hi, Kitty. Anyway, so it's on a psychological level, it's kind of fascinating. And there's very few people I can't connect with. I was raised to be charming and a pleaser, to get along with my divorcing parents and all that stuff. So it's both my injury and my superpower, as you guys, I assume, know. You know, like as my mother said from Brooklyn, with all this shit, there's got to be a pony. So there's the damage, but then from that comes my gift, which is someone else said here, I forget who it was, one of the women, be in other people's shoes. I challenge myself. If I can't get in someone's shoes, then that's my limitation to not understand my fellow human being, with the exception of some of the psychopaths you're talking about. And finally, my parting thought is, you know, make the effort to walk a mile in someone else's shoes. Okay. And then you're a mile away and you have their shoes.
Yeah.
Is it good to end on a punchline?
For you, it is, Lee.
You know, I was thinking of this. You know about Margaret Wheatley? Michaela, do you know Margaret Wheatley? And I think, John, you turned me on to her. Because what I heard, you know, what she basically says is there is no hope. Give up hope. Give up hope. It's over. It's ending. It's ending. All we can do is be warriors for humanity and help those who we can help.
Yeah.
What I heard with Maurice was the extreme and eloquent articulation of no hope. The most brilliant way I've ever heard no hope. And from you, Michaela, I heard a brilliant articulation of just sticking here, staying here, and help. And being useful, and that's and you're all express some aspects of both, and that's what I see is I want to support is those both pieces of that as one. And you know, I'm already thinking I want to interview you and all, and create the story and create the video that makes a point of those of us who are going to stay. And I think I'm going to be here till the end, because I don't think I'm going to leave the country, even though it's no country for old men, and I'm 78. But I think that could be our Netflix special, perhaps. And Margaret might be able to help us.
Thank you, Lee, for hosting this. We are here
Yes.
because of
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
The man who claims to not have emotions and all the stuff you talk about, and I'm sure it's true for you, but from out here, like, my God, I mean,
I
you
simulate.
be quiet. You be quiet. I'm talking to you. With your playfulness and your mirth and all that stuff you and I can do, you connect people, however magically, with love, my friend. You do that. The man who claims he has no emotion. So talk about amazing.
Thanks, Jack.
Yeah.
John, did you want to say anything to close? I have a.
Just how much I enjoyed this time with you all. That's, I knew I would, but even more than I thought I would.
Yeah,
Enjoyed it. Be happy to do it again.
thank you.
Too.
I'll be in touch with you as a group. I'll be in touch with you by tomorrow and get some conversation going.
Great to meet you all. Great to be
Great
with
to
you all.
meet everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good to meet you all.
All right.
Ciao, everybody. Nighty night.
Ah.
Nice.
Sweet dreams.